Well, here we are reviewing another Disney Slop movie. Oh god, no, I don't want to be in a movie with Jared Leto. He's going to ruin my career. Jean Baudrillard, who we must forgive for being French, famously drew a distinction between simulacra and simulation in his imaginatively titled book, Simulacra and Simulation. In his telling, simulation is the process of replication or mimicry. It is the art of reproducing reality or some facet of it in another form. In his writing, when he can be bothered to do it, George R.R. Martin is simulating the reality, both historic and current, of power politics. The result is the simulacrum. From Martin's simulation is produced the simulacrum that is Game of Thrones. It's not a mere copy of reality, but a constructed reality. It is not literally true, it is the truth that the author and his audience sees when he looks through his figurative lenses. Baudrillard identified 3 orders of simulacrum, broadly corresponding to what he perceived as the collapse of meaning and its replacement with a kind of hyper-reality in which our simulacra, our art, our music, our TV news, our movies, have severed all correspondence with truth, becoming purely self-referential constructs. Where a first-order simulacrum directly references reality, like a photograph or a map of the terrain, and a second-order simulacrum refers to but distorts reality, like the histories of Herodotus or a Fox News bulletin, a third-order simulacrum bears no relation to reality whatsoever, like a CNN panel show. It simply references other simulacra. The result is a postmodern society that is based upon memes about memes about memes all the way down. Baudrillard laid all of this out in 1981. The following year, and how's this for a segue, a second-order simulacrum was released.
See what you did there?
It is a story about simulation. It is a movie called Tron.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Ever wondered what it's like to visit the grid in another country? Maybe you're looking for region-locked streaming content. Maybe your government has introduced an incredibly stupid online safety act and you want to ignore it. Maybe you're already abroad and you want to check up on the grid back home. If any of these apply, ProtonVPN can help you out. Created by the team behind Proton Mail, ProtonVPN has more than 15,000 servers in 120 countries, allowing you to browse from anywhere in the world no matter where in the world your user happens to be. It works in both directions. If foreign Netflix has a show you want to watch, just change your region to unlock it. If you need a holiday from your family holiday, you can go home with the flick of a switch. ProtonVPN can send you home whenever you need to feel at home. It's available across phones, laptops, and smart TVs, and you're only ever one click away from safe, high-speed, private browsing. You can get 64% off and a 30-day money-back guarantee at the link in my description, protonvpn.com/the Little Platoon, or by scanning the QR code on your screen. Thanks to ProtonVPN for sponsoring this video. Now, back to the games.
Please stand by for further details. We return you now to your regularly scheduled program.
Tron's importance to the history of film far outstrips its popularity. We went through a lot of its history on our recent EFAP breakdown, but the condensed version I present to you here. If you're wondering why Tron Ares deserves a video, this section is an important part of the argument. The original Tron is a story of triumph over adversity. It is also a story about triumph over adversity. It was conceived by creator Steven Lisberger on a visit to visual effects company Magi in the late 1970s when he got his first glimpse of Pong.
Pong?
The game that birthed an industry. Lisberger's stroke of genius was imagining what it was like not to play Pong, but to be in Pong. Long before the advent of the modern RPG, Lisberger imagined the immersive possibilities of video games, the notion that those pixels moving around on the screen are themselves a simulacrum of the player. He wanted to show the world inside the arcade machine. The creative spark is summarized by his creation, Kevin Flynn, in Tron's 2010 sequel, Tron Legacy.
I tried to picture clusters of information as they moved through the computer. What did they look like?
Ships, motorcycles.
Actually bringing this vision to the big screen required an extremely complex and innovative active simulation. Tron is the first movie to make extensive use of computer-generated graphics, married with rotoscoped live-action footage and hand-drawn backlit animation. The movie contains around 20 minutes of full CGI to represent its digital game world, the Grid.
Whoa.
Achieving this with no digital storage, with no digital workstations, with no way to match resolutions and frame rates, with computers that had less than a megabyte of RAM, was a Herculean feat. Single frames of that movie could take a whole day to render.
-1%.
Custom code had to be written for every single effect, and the entire process required animators with no computing experience to work with coders with no movie-making experience. That the project ended up with Disney then desperately looking to revitalize its flagging film division might have been a stroke of luck. Disney had some of the best and most experienced animators in the business, but these traditional artists refused to work on the movie, believing CGI to be a cheap trick and a threat to their livelihoods. Certain modern parallels could here be drawn. Despite breaking substantially more new ground than Avatar would decades later, Tron was not even considered for an Oscar because the Academy viewed computer-generated effects in much the same way: artless, soulless, cheating. Tron is often dismissed, even today, as a mere tech demo, as though the only thing worth saying about it is the mere creation of an entire new form of movie making, one that inspired the likes of Pixar's John Lasseter, the Wachowskis, Tim Burton, who worked on Tron as an uncredited animator, and Daft Punk, who would go on to do the wonderful soundtrack for Tron Legacy. But that would be unfair. Tron also has characters, occasionally it has a plot, and it has a very definite and very relevant theme. The villainous Master Control program is a better and more timely AI villain than most modern films can manage. The simple chess program that becomes so skillful and so useful that it transforms its nominal owner, the sleazy crook Edward Dillinger, into its servant. Dillinger, who rose to the top of the tech company Encom by stealing ideas from the programmer Kevin Flynn, lacks sufficient humanity to best the Master Control program. Dillinger is a corporate pencil pusher, and even back in 1982, Lisberger spotted that human pencil pushers would be no match for their own computers.
Won't that be grand? Computers and the programs will start thinking and the people will stop.
Though the plot of the movie is extremely derivative of Star Wars, and the novelty of the presentation and the genius of the game grid are the obvious draws, all of Tron's constituent parts are put in service of its message. Kevin Flynn, established as a gifted programmer and an ace gamer to boot, is dragged into the grid by the Master Control program, which has spent so much time dealing with Dillinger types that it thinks all humans are just as vulnerable. Mirroring the place of the Jedi and the Force in Star Wars, Flynn is the representative of an in-game religion that the evil Empire, or Master Control and his helmeted henchman Sark, are trying to suppress. But Flynn, as the angel in the world, shows programs that their faith in users is justified, and through faith comes rebellion against the system. Master Control is undone by the re-injection of humanity to the machine world that he had so desperately tried to expunge. Under Master Control's dominion, only one point of contact between the grid and the real world was left open: the Master Control program itself. Once the program is destroyed, all the old contact points open up again, the grid is liberated, and the free and open flow of information between the worlds is regained. Tron is a techno-utopian story, one that preempts the Hackers Manifesto's call for a free and open technological sphere by at least 4 years, and subsequent campaigns for a free and open internet by even longer. Tron, in other words, corresponds with reality. It attempts to tell us something about the old world in which we then lived, and the new world that was right around the corner. Tron is a very good second-order simulacrum. Despite being Disney's best-performing movie in the previous 5 years, Tron did not meet with a level of success that would justify the time and expense of making another one.
Did anyone see the movie Tron?
No.
And it would take almost 30 years before the movie gained enough of a cult following that the studio thought it worth revisiting the grid. Thus, in 2010, Tron Legacy was born. Visually stunning,
eyes, my beautiful eyes!
With one very notable exception, and blessed with some of Daft Punk's best work, Tron Legacy is markedly different in a number of respects. Decidedly less high concept, Legacy tries to be stronger in those areas where the original movie was weak, chiefly in the character department. The original movie's character work pretty much ends once Flynn enters the grid, but here in Legacy, Flynn's disappearance into the new grid is the kickoff for a conventional hero's journey, as his son, Sam Flynn, tracks down his missing father. Tron Legacy benefited from the goodwill earned by its predecessor. The original Tron, having inspired Lasseter, provided dividends when, looking for ways to inject more character, emotion, and thematic complexity to the early cut of Legacy, director Joseph Kosinski showed a copy of his movie to Disney executives, who in turn showed it to Pixar's Lasseter, Ed Catmull, Brad Bird, and Michael Arndt, with the latter two hired to provide around 6 pages of additional material for reshoots. Where in Legacy a scene seems to go on just a little bit too long, but also to contain that movie's best and most meaningful character dialogue, you can be pretty sure those are the reshot scenes. Thematically, Legacy functions as part continuation, part subtle rebuke of the original movie's simplistic utopian message. Kevin Flynn creates a new grid and designs it to be the perfect system. In aid of his endeavor, he creates Clue, his own simulacrum, and tasks him with making perfection reality. Flynn is so obsessed with his utopia that he is heavily implied to be a dysfunctional boss of Encom and a less than ideal father to young Sam, and his flaws find their nth degree in Clue. When a race of beings called ISOs emerge on the grid, spontaneous algorithmic creations that Flynn believes hold the key to solving, somehow, human suffering, Clue views them as aberrant entities representing imperfections in his system. For the system to be perfect, the ISOs have to be destroyed. This creates a break between creator and creation, with Clue turning on Flynn because of the latter's love for the ISOs, and Flynn, with the last surviving ISO Cora, is driven into hiding. Tron Legacy tries to substantiate and to explain all of this, and it's not completely successful. For one thing, it undercuts the original film's message, which has it that programs themselves can be altered and liberated by the injection of humanity into the system. By portraying Clue as the unalterable product of his human creator, whose villainy is predetermined and irredeemable, Tron Legacy seems to go back on this point. But Legacy does arrange things this way. It does take these liberties to push a meaningful thematic message. It takes Sam's entry to the grid and his reacquaintance with his father to show Kevin Flynn that his dream of a perfect world was indelibly flawed from the outset, because it was the product of a profound misconception. Perfection is not order, it is chaos. The miracle of creation is not intellectual, it is emotional. It's not what you make with your hands, it's what you make with your dick. I mean, it's your family.
Chasing after perfection. Chasing after what was right in front of me.
I created the perfect system! The thing about perfection is that it's unknowable. You wouldn't know that because I did when I created you.
Kevin Flynn ultimately sees the light and sacrifices himself for true perfection, his love for his son. The movie concludes with Sam and Cora using Flynn's disc to transport out of the grid and back to the real world, with Cora containing the potential to transform all humanity for the better. Sam Flynn uses his position as majority shareholder in Encom to oust the old, cynical executive team, including Dillinger's son, and appoint the original movie's Alan Bradley as chairman, which I include here for reasons of continuity that Ares is about to fuck up. Tron Legacy is a beautiful and deeply flawed movie. We went through rather more of its shortcomings on that EFAP episode mentioned earlier. This video is not going to be a comprehensive breakdown of that film, so if you want more on both the original and on Tron Legacy, check out the EFAP link in the description. The point here is that, like its predecessor, Legacy still sets out to represent and comment upon something real, on the potential for technology in concert with humanity, in the case of the original, and on the importance of messy love over sterile technological creation in the case of the latter. One says, "This is what you could have, isn't it wonderful?" The other cautions you against overlooking what you already have. Both movies are, in their own ways, second-order simulacra. Quite a lot has changed in movie making in the 15 years since Legacy's release, and the vast majority of it for the worse. We are firmly into the era of third-order simulacra, where Legacy sequels, video game movies, and live-action adaptations have shed themselves of nearly all connections to the real world in favor of self-referential emptiness. Tron Ares is going to spend almost all of its time in the real world, and it's going to have less to say about it than that old 80s tech demo did. I chose the title for this video because Tron Ares is How to Train Your Dragon, is Lilo and Stitch, is Snow White, is Mulan, the same again minus the soul. Now, I am not promising here one of my most exhaustive plot breakdowns, but we do have appearances to keep up. Tron isn't actually in this Tron movie, but somebody has to fight for the users, so let's begin. Tron Ares boots up with a grid introduction, echoing Tron Legacy's iconic opening. But where Legacy had Kevin Flynn talking to his son about a digital frontier, Ares gives us a de-aged Jeff Bridges, now with upgraded graphics, delivering a TV interview from some unspecified past.
The grid, a world beyond the screen, as real as our own. In just a few years, we're going to be able to enter this world. And a few years after that, this world will come into ours. Intelligent life from inside the machine. I, for one, can't wait to meet him.
This is a statement of intent, and it explains quite a lot of the movie to follow. Tron Legacy provides diegetic and non-diegetic excitement and wonder. It understands the allure of the grid, this science fantasy world. It's inviting us across the first threshold. Tron Legacy understood that it is a Tron movie. Flynn is describing the grid to his excited son, who serves as the audience's ears. His explanation leads straight into the Daft Punk main theme.
And then, one day...
You got in.
That's right, man. I got in.
Which is supposed to be awe-inspiring, but which also contains a note of tragedy in among the epic, foreshadowing the kind of story we're about to get. Kevin Flynn in Ares, though, isn't talking about the grid as a wonderful, brilliant creation into which he is inviting us. He's talking about bringing stuff from the grid to our world. This is the same Flynn who, at roughly this point in Legacy's backstory, is leaving his son at nighttime to go back to the grid, which is the object of his fascination, to build his utopia there.
In there is our destiny.
So, not only does Ares tell us it's not all that interested in the grid as the grid, but only in the grid as an instrument to alter our world, it also presents us with, seemingly, an entirely different character called Kevin Flynn. The Kevin Flynn in this interview can't really be the same as the Kevin Flynn tantalizing his son with descriptions of a perfect world. Then, we're bombarded with a montage of AI-generated news anchors recapping the premise. Kevin Flynn, Encom's visionary, made video games and then disappeared. Except one anchor claims,
the company that started at Kevin Flynn's arcade in the 1980s,
which it didn't. Encom predates Flynn's arcade. Flynn was a programmer at Encom. He rose through the ranks. He got supplanted by Dillinger, who stole his ideas for new games, only after which Flynn was fired, only after which he opened his arcade. I'm already extremely puzzled why this movie has decided to give us AI news presenters, but I suppose it's on brand that they get the basic details wrong. Now, you might recall that, per the end of Tron Legacy, Sam Flynn is back, and he has Cora with him to boot, and he's made Alan Bradley CEO of Encom. In rescuing Cora, Sam was set up to honor his father's sacrifice and help her transform the world. What will Ares do with this tantalizing prospect?
Even just Kim take the reins of the massive tech company after Sam Flynn resigns for personal reasons.
Oh, Sam's resigned, has he? He's just gone for personal reasons. Bradley, he ain't even in the movie. What? Nowhere to be seen. Doesn't get so much as a mention. They didn't even ask the actor if he wanted to return.
Please go see Tron Ares. I'm not in it, but please go. It is an original franchise, and I'm hoping this new movie we'll continue it on, and the only way that's going to happen is if you, the audience, go to it and go to movie theaters. Don't sit back and wait for it to be streaming. Go to the movie theaters. Box office is everything.
I believe I read today that it's looking at a $134 million loss for the studio.
Jesus.
Wow.
This movie was so bad that they've retired the Tron franchise from the big screen now. They've officially announced that.
Remember the clip of him walking out to all the people, all 10 people that were watching Tron Ares?
Oh my God, you should pull that up.
I've not actually watched this. I'm just aware of it, so I'm ready.
Check out how many people are in this audience. This is like the opening, not just opening, like opening night. This is the opening.
First screening,
yeah.
This is Eagle Death.
I said, are you ready? How you doing, quiet. San Francisco?
There we go.
You know, we had to come and say hello and say thank you so much for coming today. This is your very few people in the world have seen this movie. I'm
very few people are about to.
Thank you so much for being here tonight.
What an asshole!
So we're to take it that Cora hasn't transformed the world. You know, I'm starting to get the sense that this creative team, if they even deserve to be called as much, never watched the other movies. Now, in some nebulous future, Encom is smashing records under the awesome power of the twin vaginas. The two sisters have taken charge, Eve and Tess Kim. This is one of those occasions where the term girl boss is literally true. Meanwhile, a rival company, Dillinger Systems, has emerged from the ether. It's led by Julian Dillinger, who is the grandson of the original's disgraced Edward Dillinger. Because, you know, CEO positions at big tech companies, they're basically passed down like royal titles. Wanna know how all the big tech bros got where they are today? Yeah, well, the answer is just stupidity and nepotism. But you might be thinking, this is all quite curious. I don't remember any mention of Dillinger Systems in Tron Legacy. In fact, didn't Dillinger Sr.'s son, Cillian Murphy, work for Encom in Legacy? How did a man revealed to be a con artist at the end of the original movie, a guy who basically committed industrial fraud, a man who was sacked in disgrace and who might even have committed a major crime, go on to start a massive and successful new tech company 40 years ago?
No fucking idea.
Basically as soon after he was sacked, which is when this movie has Dillinger Systems come into being for the purposes of backstory. Dillinger Systems does get a mention in 2011's Tron The Next Day, a short film that tries to tie a few loose ends together after Legacy and give a sense of where that franchise would be going next. The existence of Dillinger Systems doesn't make a huge amount of sense in that short film either for the reasons stated above. Dillinger Sr. would be lucky to be allowed near another corporate boardroom and would have been the investment equivalent of asbestos. Dillinger Systems, which The Next Day and Ares present as a major rival to Encom from before Legacy even began, was not so major a rival that it deserved a single mention in Legacy itself. That, anyway, concludes our world setup. At some point, roughly 40 years ago, Dillinger Systems emerged and came to rival Encom. At some point in the past 15 years, Sam Flynn resigned from Encom for personal reasons, and Alan Bradley just ceased to exist.
I'm not dead.
At some point since his disappearance, Eve and Tess Kim took over the leadership of Encom. It's a big old mess, but it's what we've got, and you know, there's stuff we can work with.
They might just as well have said, here goes something, here comes nothing.
Right.
Or there would be, but for the fact that the intro montage also decides to both introduce and conclude what passes for the movie's big thematic conflict. At stake is the future of AI. At question is what AI will be used for. What competing visions have arisen? How will the future be shaped, and by whom? And much like the recent Superman movie, which presented a big conflict between raping the whole planet and just being a nice guy, Tron Ares settles the question in the act of introducing it. Do you support Dillinger Systems, which is evil and red and evil and red and run by villains and evil, that's led by a white kid who is evil and run by nepotism, which is evil, and that wants to use AI to build weapons, which is evil? Or do you support the Kim sisters and Encom?
This is really tough.
The beauty of AI is not the ability to build smarter weapons, but to uplift humanity, feed the hungry, cure the sick, educate the world.
And it's at this point that the movie loses all my interest because, much like Superman, there is basically no chance of a meaningful conflict arising. Original Tron had the whole man subservient to his creation will lose, man who inspires humanity will win motif. Tron Legacy had the short-sightedness of utopia causing you to miss the messy perfection right in front of you. The first had a strictly thematic conflict and the other a more character-led thematic conflict. Ares, on the other hand, well, Ares gives you, will you be good or will you be an evil shit? The introduction then moves to its segue.
Rival CEOs Julian Dillinger and Eve Kim have gone quiet in recent months, raising speculation the two companies are very close to a substantial technological breakthrough. The future may well lie in the hands of whoever gets there first.
Now, we've come a long way from the video game roots, and I think we've lost a few things along the way. This is all sufficient to tell you that this movie is not in any meaningful way a sequel to Tron Legacy. Not only for the timeline problems and the seeming contradictions, but because this is what Cora's ultimate purpose was going to be. She was the one who was going to transform the world, and she hasn't had a mention. She and Sam Flynn are just gone. The plot proper kicks off with Julian Dillinger, Dylan Jr., activating his Ares program, scored to a 9 Inch Nails track that is all grit and no grace.
What did you say?
Unlike Daft Punk's opener for Legacy, which blended mystery and heroism, 9 Inch Nails favor dark, grungy noise. It's more an opening track than it is a score. It's meant to be Ares' theme, but its melody is too long, too muddled. It has no notable counter-melody to riff on later. The undergirding electronic soundscape doesn't allow for the kind of riffing on major or minor beats that allows a good theme, a good leitmotif, to be repurposed with very different moods according to what a character is experiencing later in the story. The 9 Inch Nails Ares theme really just plays whenever Ares does something cool. Which is the film's first sign that it doesn't trust its own visuals, and it lacks even the concept of emotion in its script. Ares himself, played by Morbius's own Jared Leto, is introduced training with a triangular disc that doubles as a 3-pointed knife. It's a neat enough design, but the sequence exists solely to scream, "Look how lethal he is!" It ought to be revisited because Ares is about to go on a journey of self-discovery that should show him that his potential, the potential of all programs, is much more than the sum of his code. Tron Ares is, very loosely, the story of a program discovering that it's people. The obvious question is, what does the newly inhumaned Ares make, later, of the fact he's destroyed so many of his fellow programs to get to his enlightened state?
Have you ever killed anyone?
Yeah, but they were all bad.
Does his view of himself evolve his view of his fellows? Will he return as a liberator? Does he become the messiah of the grid? Does he go back to save and liberate all those programs he has here cut through? And the answer to all of those questions is no.
Not really.
Dylan Jr., Hollywood's latest stupid nepo baby tech bro villain, comes in to tell Ares that he is not a who, but a what. Ares is Dillinger Systems security software, defender of the grid, and also Master Control?
You are Master Control.
That doesn't make sense.
Lest you think this might mean something, also, no.
Thanks for coming back early.
No problem, Master C.
The Master Control program could talk directly to Dillinger Sr., but this hyper-advanced company uses text-to-speech.
You move fast. You leave stuff behind.
Meanwhile, in some snowy nowhere, Eve Kim, our literal girl boss, snowmobiles to a silo of sorts stuffed with ancient computers and modern posters and newspaper clippings about the events covered in the introduction. This makes for some confused visual storytelling since the movie wants us to think that nobody has been here for a little while, and yet someone has to have been here basically yesterday to pin up those posters and those newspaper clippings. Eve is hunting for a floppy disk, which is the worst pet name for a penis.
Come on, let go of my floppy.
The floppy disk contains the Permanence code, the purpose of which shall be made clear presently. A video message from her sister Tess plays on one of the computers.
I always dreamed that we would do this together.
Okay, so why didn't you? Enter the comic relief sidekick, whose entire personality is terrible jokes.
Dude, I can make breakfast burritos right here.
This man offers precisely nothing to the plot besides jokes of this caliber, which is bad enough. But he also appears in scenes that were meant to have a definite atmospheric purpose to them. For example, this should be the exploratory mystery beat, carrying not only an air of intrigue but also of solemnity. We are shortly to learn that Tess Kim, Eve's sister, died of cancer off-screen a little while ago. Eve is here following in her footsteps, hunting for a relic that will fulfill her sister's legacy. The audience doesn't know the whats and the whys of it yet, but this scene is supposed to make us interested in them. Think, for comparison, the introduction to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now imagine that Indy was accompanied by a comic relief sidekick who filled every silent moment with bad breakfast jokes, and you see the damage Comic Relief Guy does to this movie. Comic Relief Guy tells us that Tess kept coming back here to disconnect. Eve, meanwhile, is looking for Flynn's answer to a big problem. What problem is that, you ask, pretending nicely to be interested? Well, the movie's answer is the Permanence code, but that is not the real problem. Oh no, the real problem is that we have now established in the introduction that Flynn was interested in bringing things from the digital world into the real world. We now know that he had both the technology and the code and the motive required to do this. So, if this was his interest, and if this was his intent, and if he had the means, then, why didn't he? Why did he go pissing about in the legacy grid waiting to discover something that could transform humanity when, according to this movie, he already had it? It's really not a good sign that within 5 minutes of the start of movie proper, it's basically shat itself. Also, minor quibble, the code's on a floppy disk. There really aren't that many floppy disks to go through, and it doesn't take too long to check them for a line or two of code. They're fucking searchable even. So what exactly was Tess doing all the time she was here?
You ask a lot of questions.
She didn't just drop all these boxes off and then immediately die of cancer. Comic Relief Guy just told us that she came here all the time. Did she not check the floppy disks to look for the code that she knew she might find there? Oh well, it could be worse. At least the Permanence code isn't on Flynn's personal server on display in Encom's head office, because that would just be ridiculous. Eve scans through the floppy disks and she finds the correct one, on which are 2 lines of code forming a double helix, because, remember Cora? Eve tests it with a portable laser and creates an orange tree. Remember the orange?
Yes. No.
I remember. The Permanence code, you see, is very important. It's a holy grail of sorts. While it's already possible to bring things from the digital world to the real world, for reasons of contrivance, these things automatically de-res after 29 minutes. No explanation for this is forthcoming. Only with the Permanence code can you make them, well, permanent. And so the orange tree is a test to see if they have the right code, to see if the code does what they think it will do. If the orange tree lasts longer than 29 minutes,
shut up and get to the point!
well, then miracles are indeed possible. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, Dylan Jr. pitches his reverse laser tech to Dillinger Systems investors, including, bafflingly and damagingly, military brass. He shows off a tank called the Dart, and the soldier who'll drive it. Out steps Ares. Dylan Jr. calls Ares biblically strong, lightning fast, supremely intelligent, and also fully proprietary and completely expendable. This line will become important later.
With all that sophisticated code, what makes you think you can contain it?
And this is an extremely important question that deserves a follow-up, but just doesn't get one. Tron Ares, you see, is one of those special films that completely collapses if the audience questions anything about it, but that would also collapse if its characters asked anything about it. This last is at least in the writer's control, and so they simply don't have characters probe the rectum of the script.
That's disgusting.
One rather chunky lump of gelatinous shit would result if they did question the script. It is the presence of the military at this demonstration. Not only do they believe it is now possible to summon anything at all from the digital realm to the real world, which is the sort of miraculous technological development that's just begging to be strangled by government regulation, but they now know what it looks like. Dillinger Systems creations are quite distinctive. All that neon red is a bit of a giveaway. It's going to make it very awkward if, later in the movie, Dylan Jr. sends his very distinctive digital creations to do very illegal things in public, since it should take the police precisely 2 seconds to trace it back to its source. While Dillinger is wowing the investors and the top brass, Ares has a moment. It starts raining.
I hope that you brought your umbrellas.
He stands in the rain. He seems to be having feelings about the rain. As the investors drive off, he notices fireflies dancing prettily in the sky. He has feelings about those as well. Now, it's blindingly obvious to the viewer where all this is going. Ares is meant to be a mere program, an unfeeling, expendable soldier. Yet here he is having sensations and experiences that tell us he's on the way to becoming something more. But it's so blindingly obvious to us, we who have no stake at all in the future of this technology, never mind this franchise, that it should also be obvious to Dylan Jr. There is a shot where he looks strangely at Ares as Ares contemplates the fireflies. He's clearly noticed Ares' strange behavior, and yet this is just the first of a few beats in the movie where Dylan Jr. notices that something is wrong, only to completely forget that something is wrong, and so run no tests, no diagnostics, no examinations of his most prized creation.
God, you're dumb.
Because if he did, the movie would fuck itself. Dylan Jr.'s mother, however, well, she does notice.
I hope you brought your umbrellas. Or was that in the script, or was he just having a moment?
This is Scully Dillinger. She's the smartest character by default because she at least notices and calls it out when Dylan Jr. is being an idiot. That is pretty much all she's gonna do in every scene she's in every line of dialogue she has.
Deceiving your investors, Julian, is hardly a business model. But if it doesn't work... No, I don't like it. It's too risky, Julian. In deep shit. How could you be so reckless?
You should fuck off. Now.
She's such a wonderfully realized character, but Gillian Anderson, God, well, she's doing her best. But who is Scully Dillinger, you might ask? Well, thankfully, Ares is in the scene, and what he lacks in personality, he makes up for by being able to exposit other people's.
Elizabeth Dillinger, eldest daughter of founder Edward Dillinger, longtime CEO during a relatively unremarkable period of corporate history before being superseded by your only son.
Market share was up 12% during my tenure.
Of course, it's an honor to meet my creator's creator.
And then Ares explodes, along with the dart, because his 29 minutes are up. Scully chides Dylan Jr. for not telling the investors about the time limit.
Deceiving your investors, Julian, is hardly a business model.
To which Dylan Jr. responds,
"Whoever controls the permanence code controls the future."
Remember that Netflix directive where you have to tell the audience exactly what's happening on the screen in case they're too busy doom scrolling to pay attention to your terrible movie? Yeah, well, there's a lot of that in this film. Back in the mountains, the orange tree has indeed outlasted the 29-minute limit. The Permanence code is therefore the real deal. Now, several things could happen here. The Permanence code is tiny. It fits on a floppy disk. Eve could email it immediately back to Encom. She could send it in a text. She could airdrop it. The movie could finally leave the real world and return to the grid, becoming a kind of race against time as Eve's Encom programs have to get the data across the grid while being hunted by Ares on behalf of Dillinger Corp. Or Eve could do what Sam Flynn did with Encom's proprietary new operating system at the beginning of Tron Legacy and release it for free to the public because, like the original movie, Sam Flynn believed in free and open access to information. The Permanence code could be Eve's gift to the world. But if she did the first of those ideas, the one that's set on the grid, then we'd have a much better movie than the one we're going to get. And if she did the second of those ideas, then we wouldn't have a movie. So instead, she copies it onto a USB stick. Meanwhile, in the city, we're introduced to an entirely redundant subplot. In Eve's absence, two non-characters are keeping Encom running. They are Erin and AJ, and they're gearing up to launch Panic City, a video game, which feels a little bit irrelevant when the A-plot is solving hunger and disease and transforming the world. The game launch is indeed entirely irrelevant to anything that follows.
What are you doing? You're hacking Encom?
Just a peek over the garden wall. No one will notice.
Scully Dillinger is not very happy about his plan. She tells him what she always tells him.
So I'm gonna find her, and when I do...
No, I don't like it. It's too risky.
But Dillon Jr. insists it's necessary because he believes Encom is on the trail of the Permanence code and might be closer to finding it.
What makes you think that Encom is any closer to finding it?
Because I know who else is looking for it, all right?
Yep, so do we. We've known it since the introduction. And given this is the most important event in the history of these corporations, and even the world writ large, everybody involved should also know it.
Who?
Oh, fuck off, Scully. All of that was redundant. A significant chunk of this movie is comprised of redundant scenes. We, the audience, know what's going on because we have the bigger picture. Anyone at Dillinger Systems who needs to know can be presumed to know what's going on as well because it is so very important to them. All we actually needed from this scene was Dillon Jr. typing onto his stupid glass keyboard, which could give us our transition into the Encom grid, where we see the result of his typing. The audience can be trusted to put two and two together without unnecessary dialogue making clear what is already clearly obvious. It's not an uncommon problem in first drafts. The temptation is to over-explain and even to repeat. Partly, this is you reassuring yourself that every connection has been properly made, which often leads to over-explanation, and partly it's because you're proceeding linearly and have not yet had the chance to step back and see the result. I'd wager most writers do this, which is why second drafts, proofreading, and editors are very important. Disney has had 15 years and hundreds of millions of dollars to get this movie's plot drafted and redrafted and redrafted again. But like so many modern movies, you'd be forgiven for thinking the whole thing was scribbled frantically overnight on the back of some vodka-soaked pub napkin, like it's a Star Wars sequel, and the writer was an overgrown midget with an impossibly round head. Ares and his team do indeed infiltrate the Encom grid. There are now at least 4 grids in the Troniverse: the original, the Legacy grid, the Encom grid, and the Dillinger grid. Yet despite this proliferation of grids, we're going to spend less than 10 minutes in all of them put together in this Tron movie that doesn't even have Tron in it.
Boring!
Remember how Alien Earth just seemed to not want to be an alien show at all? Yeah, getting the same vibes from this movie. Ares is accompanied by 4 other programs. Look who it is! It's Mother Anusai from The Acolyte! Seeing you alive, it brings warm feelings to my heart. Go on, give us the line for old time's sake.
The power of one, the power of two, the power of many.
Their mission is to break into Encom's data center and retrieve Eve Kim's personal file. The Encom grid's design is a generic neon blur, unlike the symbolically and carefully crafted locales of the previous two movies. Yet more evidence, I would suggest, that this Tron movie really isn't very interested in what makes Tron tick, and Encom's security is virtually, that's a pun, non-existent. There are just 4 guard programs which are easily dispatched by Ares & Co. Ares then steps into a data stream to retrieve Eve's file, which marks the definitive beginning of his simp arc, as he lingers in the stream while lots of plot-useful interview clips of Eve play at him.
For every doomsday scenario, there is a medical breakthrough, scientific discovery.
You know, I really don't like those odds. Oh, sure, you might discover the formula for the world's most effective hemorrhoid cream, but there's a 50% chance you'll wipe out humanity. For every cure for hair loss, there's one Skynet.
Maybe what emerges from the unknown isn't so scary. What? What if its major malfunction is just benevolent?
This fixes Eve as an object of fascination in Ares' mind, unlike his horrible boss Dylan Jr. You don't even need to watch the movie to know what's coming next, but yeah, well, we're gonna anyway because fuck it, we're basically programs and this is what we're here for. In the real world's Encom data center, the hack has set off an alarm.
We need a response now.
Initiate security protocol.
Bet you didn't know that behind your antivirus software is a whole team of people in an office somewhere. Downloaded a file from that dodgy porn website?
Your hard drive is filthy.
Well, that's just triggered an alarm in an office, and the antivirus goblin staff look at a screen and they say, "We need a response." Then a guy with a radio shouts an order at your antivirus software, and that's how viruses are defeated. Yeah, fuck it. Cutting edge technology. That's what Tron's all about. High concept tech demo movie.
Do not redeem! Do not redeem the card!
What?
Do not redeem the cards!
Yes, I'm redeeming the card. I'm redeeming the cards. Okay.
Anyway, the fat nerd shouting over the radio is what prompts a security response on the Encom grid. The Encom grid has no tanks, no recognizers, even though every other grid has those. Nope, it just has a small army of digital smurfs who run out to confront the 5 Dillinger Corp intruders. The resulting fight is a total mess. In one shot, there are thousands of tightly massed Encom smurfs. In the next shot, there's a sparse exchange that lets the Dillinger Corp programs fight 1 or 2 smurfs at a time. In another shot, there's a tightly massed bunch of Encom smurfs animated awkwardly on a green-screened background while a few of them engage. In another shot, they're all defeated, and some of the Dillinger Corp programs jump off a ledge to safety. Then, oh no, surprise, it's another shot. The smurfs are back, and one of the Dillinger Corp programs is trapped and still fighting for his life. Exactly the kind of callous disregard for life and morality that we've come to expect from the folks of the Acolyte. Because his simp arc has begun and Ares is now contemplating being good people, he goes back to help the stranded program, which has had a limb cut off. The program's helmet is gone, and oh, look who it is! It's Cal Kestis from the Star Wars games. Disney's just one big happy family. Cameron Monaghan's name actually appears in the opening credits, and here he is being revealed in a very important scene. All of this leads you to believe he's going to play quite a pivotal role in the movie. I wonder what role he will actually get.
Sometimes you have to sacrifice your night to expose their cream.
Oh, I mean, hold on, what exactly was the point of that whole protracted escape sequence?
Fuck if I know.
If you've already got the file, and you'll retain the file even if you destroy and reconstitute the program who received it, why wouldn't you just nuke the site from orbit right away? It's the only way to be sure. But that can't surely be the end of Cal Kestis. These programs can be re-resed at Dylan Jr.'s command, so I'm sure we'll be seeing more of him in a moment.
I'm curious why the program Caius was not reconstituted.
Caius was dysfunctional, so he was deleted. It operates outside their directive. Can be. Do you understand?
Of course. We are 100% expendable.
Oh. Rip Cal Kestis, I guess. Still, at least Cameron Monaghan knew it was a cameo. You know, he didn't spend too long building himself up for the role.
going into the project, I had prepared a lot for 5 months beforehand. I had like a very strict sort of like diet and schedule and workout regimen and all of these things. I just wanted to like strip back and kind of just live like a soldier basically leading up to it.
Back in the real world, AJ's video game launch goes wrong thanks to the data breach, and he's rushed out of the room like there's an active shooter on the scene. In the car with Erin, which I think is the last time I have to mention Erin. Fuck knows who she is or what she does, but oh boy is she in this scene. AJ takes a call from Dylan Jr. so they can talk about what just happened in case we weren't paying attention.
Seems like we had a little cyber breach, Jules. But then of course you knew that. You know, I heard about your cute little pitch to the board. Did you tell him the shot clock expires at 29 minutes?
Hold up, so you're saying you believe, you know, that your company was just hacked by Dylan Jr. You also believe, you know, the one piece of information that would totally destroy investor confidence and take Dylan Jr. down, if not his whole company. And you're not going to use this information... why? AJ then gets a hold of Eve on her private jet. He tells Eve about the massive data breach, and so now knowing that her whole company is running on insecure lines and their enemies could have gotten into everything, Eve does what you would expect her to do.
I found it, AJ. It's real.
Are you talking about the Permanence code?
Yeah.
He must know, Evie. I just spoke to Dillinger. He's looking for the code and he thinks you are too. They gotta move on this.
I'm en route to Encom.
What's that? We've been hacked? Oh well, that doesn't matter. Just let me shout some incredibly important information at you. God damn it, that fucking floppy disk is more intelligent. Not only has Eve just told AJ and so Dylan Jr. and so Ares exactly what she's got, which will obviously be used to track her down, but she then compounds the error. Encom is a massive company. They have stuff, they have security, they've just been attacked. So it's reasonable to suppose they'd have law enforcement resources to draw on as well. The obvious thing to do, being in possession of the Permanence code, is to call for a whole team of people to meet you at the airport and escort you back under guard. Clearly, obviously, you would have to be mad not to do that.
Keep the equipment safe. Just lay low.
So naturally, Eve sends her only friend out of the plot until the script needs him again. She dons her motorbike jacket, because fucking Tron, I don't know, and she drives off alone. Because she is a fucking digitard. But oh, Platoon, don't be hasty, he says in third person for some reason. What's Dylan Jr. going to do? He obviously can't send anyone from his grid to chase her down and rob and or kidnap her. Not only is that highly illegal, but he's already shown the government what his tech looks like. He'd be arrested instantly. Oh, no, that's a really, really bad idea. No, that's a really, really, really bad idea. Oh, well, I mean, now you've done it. The cops are going to be on you faster than the British police if you tweet about Tron and you add an extra O. A protracted and very silly chase ensues in which the literally Dillinger-coded Lightcycles basically carve up an entire city using their laser trails. There are no police for the duration of this very long segment. One of their cars got taken out, but they don't show up until after the chase is over. In the meantime, we get driving. And more driving. And then we get a joke just in case we were too invested in the scene. Chase goes on. There's a very good way that we're not introducing villains as threats. So there's one point where they shake off Ares, so it's just Athena and Eve. And Eve goes into a multi-story car park. There's a big long spiral road that leads up to the top. And so she goes up there to hide. And Athena goes in after her. And then Eve takes her out with an ambush. She launches her motorbike at her. And it knocks Athena from the top of the multi-story car park down right to the bottom again. But then this is the bit I was talking about when you do not do this to your villains if you want people to take them seriously. So she looks over the edge again. And Athena seems to be gone. Then she it's hard to describe without showing it, really. It's a shame, but Then you see there's a huge spiral staircase and it's just this tiny red woman running very slowly all the way around it. It's like a Monty Python sketch.
It looks so funny.
It's the bit in Holy Grail where like he's running toward the castle really slowly and the guards just munch. Ares finally catches up with Eve and the chase briefly recommences until they both plow through a wall, their bikes flip, and Eve somehow manages to land in a nice soft pile of industrial garbage, which, fitting metaphor, ensures she does not end up splattered against a wall. Eve runs off down a pier, she reaches the end, she realizes she's trapped, she reaches for her USB stick, she snaps the USB stick, she throws it into the water. Ares catches up with her, but he's running very low on time, so he assumes the proper position of a man before a strong modern woman, and he falls to his knees, because who knows, maybe she has a penis.
You're a pervert! You're a program! You're timing out.
Empathetic response. This confirms that he was right to simp for her. Eve is clearly good people. Anasi arrives on the scene and the police finally show up behind her, not because they thought she might be a Dillinger weapon, but because she was the closest black person they could find.
Never heard that one before.
Alas though, it is all too late. Ares and Anasi de-res. But then, oh for fuck's sake, but then Dylan Jr. activates his plan B, because you see, while his plan A was to send time-limited, highly visible, highly traceable, obviously incriminating programs to try and steal the USB stick from Eve, his plan B was to send a relatively unobtrusive helicopter. On that helicopter is a normal person who does not collapse into dust every half an hour, and with that normal person is a portable particle laser. The chap on the helicopter shoots Eve with the portable particle laser from a distance, and she dematerializes to reappear on the Dillinger Systems grid. So, why was this not your plan A, you fucking puffin? You knew where Eve was going to land. Ares was tracking her flight path. Why not just snipe her at the airport with your particle laser and fly off? But oh no, it gets worse. Ares was able to track Eve's phone and her jet. He was able to trace it to its point of origin. He was able to locate the orange tree. Eve left the floppy disk and the computer at that location. The floppy disk with the Permanence code on it. You didn't even need to chase her. You didn't even need to kidnap her. You could have just gone to the place she'd just left and got the code from the floppy disk, you neon flavor cybercock. Eve wakes up on the Dillinger grid, which looks like the Encom grid, but red and therefore evil. In a curious break from Tron tradition, which the movie will go on to contradict later, Eve needs her data disk on her to activate. Without her data disk, she is an immobile, unconscious body. That is not how it worked in Legacy, that's not how it worked in the original, and that's not how it will work later in this movie. Because this movie is one big Windows update, further problems arise. Eve tells them that she doesn't have the code, she destroyed it. But Ares and Anasi explain that because she's seen the code, she still has it inside of her. So that means, yeah, you know what else presumably still has the Permanence code inside it? That fucking orange tree.
Why is everyone so fucking stupid? Why aren't more people intelligent? Like me.
Specifically, Eve is told that her disk contains the Permanence code. But things are, predictably, not that simple.
Disk is showing signs of instability.
Define instability.
Extraction of the code may result in de-resolution of the carrier.
Anasi goes to extract the code from Eve, knowing it would kill her. So we can add murder to the kidnap and corporate espionage charges already facing Dylan Jr. But Ares stops her.
The directive is clear.
There's only one user whose directive we follow.
Stop, Anus Eye, you are correct, and that's why you're wrong. Let me go talk to Dylan Jr. Ares explains the problem to Dylan Jr.
What would remain of the user if she were to suffer de-resolution?
Nothing, sir.
No trace of her existence on the grid?
None.
Listen, Tech Twink, you lost plausible deniability when you sent your Lightcycles racing through fucking Gotham or wherever we are.
Extract the code and delete the carrier.
But Ares is torn. He is, after all, a simp.
But, sir, extracting the permanence code would delete the carrier from the grid and from your world.
Once upon a time, there was a weapon, and its name was Ares. And Ares obeyed every command of Julian Dillinger, and Julian Dillinger made $1 trillion
and wrote his name on the face of time in blood. Now, whatever pepcac error is behind these feelings,
I'm going to find it and rip it out of you.
I'm sorry, what are you doing? You know Ares is defective. He's quite obviously much more defective than poor Cal Kestis ever was. He's clearly having feelings, he's clearly having second thoughts, and you've just acknowledged you know about them. Remember what you said about Ares earlier?
he is fully proprietary and 100% expendable. And if by some miracle he is struck down on the battlefield, I will simply make you another.
Yeah, so just do that. Transfer command to Anus Eye. Ares is too big a risk. I know you can't do that because the rest of the movie needs to happen, but that is not an excuse. You're just asking for trouble. Trouble duly occurs. Ares tells Anus Eye that Dylan Jr. is indisposed and cannot be reached, so they are to wait for further instructions.
Define indisposed. He's stuck in traffic. No, he's at the opera. He's standing on the top of Mount Fuji in a pair of green socks playing Pistol Pac-a-Mom on the mandolin. I gave you an order.
You couldn't make it more obvious that you're lying? Ares dismisses Anus Eye. Once he and Eve are alone, he asks if he can trust her.
I'd like to think so, but probably not.
Not the reply I'd have given if my life was on the line, but okay. Then Ares asks if he can trust Dylan Jr.
You can't trust him. For him, everyone and everything is expendable.
She's read the script, you see, and so she knew the trigger word, expendable. It doesn't occur to Ares that asking Dylan Jr.'s biggest rival whether Dylan Jr. is a good guy might not produce the most reliable response, but hey, he knows she's telling the truth. He's read all her texts. He knows she has empathy. But then, oh dear, who could have predicted it? Mother Anus Eye returns with her guards. Turns out she didn't believe the obvious lie, so she went to check in with Dylan Jr., and he conferred upon her the meaningless title of Master Control.
That's Moses, stupid!
And he ordered her to complete the mission. He could just delete Ares at this point, but in order for the movie to happen, we have to pretend that this isn't something he can do.
This may be Kloop's game here, but in my world, he's gone in one keystroke.
I know, but you were in a better movie, Sam. To escape the oncoming guards, Ares drops his disc, which destroys the floor, and everybody bar Anus Eye goes tumbling down into the data sea below. Mother Anus Eye, who can spawn aeroplanes out of nothingness, chooses not to follow them. Instead, she dispatches drones to chase them, but Ares spawns a light boat and he and Eve race toward the portal to escape. Of course, you'll be thinking, Dylan Jr. has total command of this grid. He must surely be following what's happening, and even if he doesn't and isn't, surely Anus Eye will tell him immediately. Even if he can't just delete Ares, which he really should be able to do, surely he can shut off the portal to prevent them from escaping. And even if he can't shut off the portal, and even if he cannot stop them escaping the grid, they're going to rematerialize at Dillinger Systems headquarters, so he can just have a whole bunch of security guards waiting for them. We're not doing time dilation stuff in this movie. He was speaking to Ares and Anus Eye in real time just a few minutes ago.
When I get home, I can help you. I need something in return.
Told you I don't have the code.
Found it once, you can find it again.
So you can give it to Dillinger?
Eve Eve, on the other hand, is processing the plot on a 5-minute delay. Ares says no, he wants it for himself. But wait, you don't ask, because you're wondering why you've got this far into a review of Tron Ares. How can Eve give him the Permanence code? She destroyed the hard copy, and she can't extract it from herself without derezzing. So what's the plan? Is she lying to him? Surely there can't be another Permanence code, not counting the one on the floppy disk or the one in the orange tree.
I know where to find the code. Just get me out of here.
Yeah, we're just gonna spawn another code, aren't we? She's realized at some point during this high-speed escape that there is another code. And it better be bloody well hidden, otherwise there is really no excuse for it having remained a secret. Eve and Ares do indeed make the portal. They do indeed rematerialize at Dillinger headquarters, but this comes as a surprise to Dylan Jr., who is not prepared any sort of welcome party.
Just got double-crossed by my program. It wants the Permanence code for itself. Eve, is that the deal?
Thank you for restating the thing we just got done stating explicitly. If the movie didn't hold your hand, you'd fall over and probably die. Ares knocks out a couple of security guards who belatedly tried to stop them. There's a helicopter in the corner, they could use that. There are some decent looking cars in the parking lot, they could steal one of those. Oh god, it's so funny, don't you just love the comedy in this movie? Their plan now is to get to Encom Tower, which Eve reckons they can do within Ares' 29-minute limit, and where they can find Flynn's old server, of which the floppy disk with the Permanence code was just a copy, and in which they will find the real Permanence code. God, it's always in the last place you check, isn't it? Who would have thought Flynn's most important line of code might be within Flynn's most important personal server that's just sitting there on display in Flynn's old office? Why did nobody think to look there earlier? But there's a problem. They're going to need a particle laser to get Ares into the server to retrieve the code. And wouldn't you know it, Encom, which created the particle laser back in the 1980s, it only has one particle laser, so they're going to have to call Comic Relief, who for some reason didn't take the laser back to the office by default, so he can take the laser back to the office. This requires a phone, which Eve doesn't have, so they stop at a gas station.
Excuse me. Do you see this? This is me.
No, I'm sorry, you can't do comedy. The designated character isn't in the scene. Ares decides they need a faster vehicle, so he steals the one belonging to the gas station cashier.
The Honda Civic 2.0 4-cylinder with 130 horsepower. Classic.
The worst part of this car, though, is the ride comfort. It's all right here on our smooth track, but on normal roads, it is intolerable.
And it's not just me being a fat old man, I promise. Even if you're a teenager, even if you're used to sleeping on the floor at parties and being stabbed, this is completely unacceptable.
Off they go, driving their stolen Honda Civic at high speed across a busy bridge. I know what you're thinking. This is the ideal place for dialogue.
Eve?
Yeah.
I was thinking about the time you told your sister that you wished you never relaunched Space Paranoids. And you went on to say that you...
Oh my god, of course. You read all my texts.
Yeah, I read them all. Every single one.
Wow.
Most of it was information of a personal nature. Some of it highly personal. And I just can't get enough.
What?
Depeche Mode.
Number 8 on the UK singles chart, 1982. I find their brand of pithy, catchy, timeless, and true 80s electropop to be deeply invigorating.
Thrilling stuff. But that ain't all we get. Oh no, because you might have noticed we're reaching the climax of this movie and, as yet, we don't really have any characters. Ares is a computer program and all he knows is that rain feels good. Eve is worthy of Simpery and he likes Depeche Mode. And Eve, for her part, well, she has all the depth and personality of a puddle. As mentioned, the Legacy team had this problem, so they drafted in Brad Bird and Michael Arndt. Ares has a modern and innovative solution to the problem. It drafts in ChatGPT. This is the thing I did share on Twitter, but it is so glorious that I think it does deserve to be read in full. Because we've had no character work at all in this movie up until this point, and because Ares has read all of Eve's texts, he's able to, just in a space of a single short paragraph, do so much of the heavy lifting of dialogue and setting and character interaction and relationship building. No, we don't need any of that stuff. You can just have this, and I quote directly, and I still can't quite believe it. For the record, I don't think you have anything to be ashamed of. Space Paranoids has entertained hundreds of millions, plus it's a pretty cool name. Anyway, you told your sister that designing games left you feeling hollow, broken. Was it that your work was about entertainment and profits and her work was about improving the human condition? Your texts suggest a certain fixation with not being able to live up to her standards, which must have been complicated, especially considering she was the younger sister. By the way, I don't think you should quit. Your plan upon returning from the mountains, if I read you correctly, was to hand over the Permanence code to Encom and then let them figure out what to do with it next. Now I understand. You completed her work as a way to stay connected to her. That's fucking unacceptable.
I wish this would be hyperbole, but this is just the scene. This is what happens. He says that in just one go.
It's
you just sit there.
They're hoping that because he's doing the robot thing
Yeah.
of saying it kind of clinically and awkwardly and a little bit autistically, that you're not going to realize what this actually is when you essentially read it out, just the way the Platoon did. This is like, oh shit, we're like running out of time in this movie. Here, let me just sort of like deliver everything that there is to know about you for the audience so that they know who you are, because up to this point, they have no idea who you are.
No, I mean, I know, even with that, I know you don't believe me. You shouldn't believe anything you hear on a toxic, hateful Nazi kill stream of verbal terrorists. No, you need to hear it directly from the source, and quite right too. So, here it is again.
The record, I don't think you have anything to be ashamed of. Space Paranoids has entertained hundreds of millions. Plus, it's a pretty cool game. Anyway, you told your sister that designing games left you feeling hollow, broken. Was it that your work was about entertainment and profits and her work was about improving the human condition? Your text suggests a certain fixation with not being able to live up to her standards, which must have been complicated, especially considering she was the younger sister.
Okay, watch it.
By the way, I don't think you should quit.
What do you mean?
Your plan upon returning from the mountains, if I read you correctly, was to hand over the Permanence code to Encom and then let them figure out what to do with it next. No? Yeah, now I understand. You completed her work as a way to stay connected to her. Huh.
I could explain at greater length why this is bad, but I don't think I need to. Even Ares reach Encom.
A bit of a rush, so I'm just gonna... Eve, you gotta bring your bed. Yeah.
I remind the movie that we literally have a ticking clock going here. Look, there it is, and that was about 25 minutes ago. This is meant to be tense.
Oh, hello, Jolene. Hi. Got her badge right here.
Kids too?
No, he's not with us.
Yes, he is. Yes,
he is.
Tick tock, tick tock.
So Ares, like, as in the god of war, Ares? Yeah. Cool. You're Greek, that's awesome.
3 minutes to de-resolution.
No, I'm sorry, you don't get to do that. Either you want this to be an incredibly tense, time is running out beat, or you want to do elevator comedy. You can't have both. Up in the office, they locate Flynn's private server. And by locate, I mean it's fucking on display, and at no point since 1989 has anybody thought it might be worth having a look at it. Comic Relief goes and sets up the laser, but oh dear, Mother Anus Eye has arrived. So they're fucked, right? There she is, the lethal warrior with air superiority, with a portable particle laser. There is basically no way she can lose.
She's waiting for me to time out. Then she'll come for you.
There is one way she can lose. Ares decides, rather than waiting for the laser to be set up, he's instead going to sacrifice himself to save Eve, because he's read her texts and he knows she deserves it, even if we can't quite see the reason why. But then, Eve Rose Ticos him with the laser anyway, and he winds up on the grid. Not any old grid. The grid. The Gates grid. The OG. It really is, isn't it? Makes me wonder why you didn't put your movie in it. The narrative branches here, but we're going to condense and reorder the scenes for ease of explanation. In the grid, Ares takes a light cycle on a brief sightseeing tour. I have no idea how he knows where he's going. He's never been here before. His sense of direction seems to stem from the meta. He finds his way up to a special room, and in that special room he meets, Kevin Flynn? But wait, the actual Kevin Flynn, he can't be here. He was on an entirely separate grid in Tron Legacy, and then he exploded. It can't be a program of Kevin Flynn, because he's incredibly old, and Flynn Actual hasn't accessed this grid since at least 1989.
Are you alive? I exist in this moment. Because you do.
That is not fucking helpful, you crusty hippie. Whatever he is, all his dialogue is like this. Jeff Bridges actually gave a lot of input when crafting his character in Legacy.
It has this sort of strong Buddhist influence, especially in regards to your character. Was that a product of your involvement, or was that sort of always part of the film?
A little of both. I remember when I was first presented with the story, I was happy to see that it was an opportunity to create a modern-day myth concerning technology, and it already had some Buddhistic elements in it, and I'm very interested in things Buddhist, and I have a dear friend, Bernie Glassman, who is one of the foremost Zen teachers in the United States, and I asked him to come on board to give some input in that.
What sort of questions did you ask him? Was it in regards to just the character, or?
He sat in on story meetings and would give his thoughts. And if I had questions, I would ask him different things. He made himself available to us.
Wow, I feel almost like he should get a story credit.
He should, actually. That's a damn good thing. That reminds me, Gene, will we check on that?
I enjoy stories like this because even if the result doesn't entirely jive with the character in the previous movie, at least it tells us the actor was properly invested. He had something to say. He possessed an artistic vision that he believed he could get across. Flynn in this movie, by contrast, is like AI Luke Skywalker from the Book of Boba Fett. He shouldn't be here, and he speaks as if he isn't. Everything sounds cryptic, disguising the fact that he has nothing meaningful to say.
Well, I remember getting into that costume thinking we had never met, and then we just had a jam. Ready? Because there's no going back.
Ares and Flynn have a brief chat. The movie realizes it's only got a few minutes left, and it hasn't decided what its theme is yet, so it hastily tries to cram one in.
You're right, I think there is something wrong with me. Or maybe there's something right with you. Or maybe you're just learning. That's what we all ought to be doing. Back in the day when Ted was young, I'd think, damn, we're moving fast. You move fast, you leave stuff behind. How many people born in this century have even heard of Mozart?
Okay, boomer, where's this going then? What have we left behind? How does it actually relate to anything we've seen in the movie?
I like Mozart.
That said, if I'm being honest, I prefer Depeche Mode.
Really? Why is that?
I know one is considered the greatest composer in the history of Western civilization. The other is a synth pop band from the 80s, but I find their balance of technological exploration and pop hooks combined with
What's wrong?
I can't put my love of Depeche Mode into words. It's just,
What?
a feeling.
These These two things don't seem entirely related. In fact, they almost contradict each other. Flynn laments that we, with our technology, have moved so fast that we've lost something important: our connection to history, our appreciation of the past, our respect for the old. Ares replies that old stuff, that's cool I guess, but I prefer Depeche Mode because feelings. Flynn finds this cool, but should he? It doesn't actually answer the point. It's just as easy to set it against the point. Ares is being blasé about past achievements because he prefers something much newer, because it makes him, in some vague but immediate way, feel good. Isn't that a substantial part of the critique of modern technology and society more broadly? That everything we do is geared toward immediate gratification at the expense of wisdom, knowledge, and true experience? Well, says you, maybe the movie will go on to strike a synthesis in the way Tron Legacy tried to do. Progress married to purpose, a future informed by the past. Maybe Ares, with Flynn's help, will realize that his love of Depeche Mode is valuable, but it could also be turned into a love of Mozart, if, like Standing in the Rain, he spends more time with it. Maybe the fact he's only lived in 29-minute bursts has limited his perceptions. Once he has the Permanence code, once time stops being his enemy, Ares will be able to live life to the full. Oh gee, and maybe this is what will allow him to redeem Mother Anasai and save his fellow programs on the grid. Yeah, that'd be a fairly solid ending, I think. Pretty good theme too. No longer an instrument, but a person. No longer a follower, but a leader. No longer a slave, but a liberator and a messiah. The answer to the problems of AI is, like the original movie, the essence of humanity. Yeah, that'd work. Maybe this'll be an okay movie after all. So Flynn gives Ares the Permanence code. We will charitably forget that literally anybody could have got this at any point if they'd bothered checking out this server in the last 3.5 decades, but fuck it, never mind. And he portals back to save the day. While all this is going on, Mother Anasai does the world's biggest and most pointless loop-the-loop to give Eve and comic relief time to escape, and she goes crashing into the Encom office. Oh god, I do hope he's dead. Mother Anasai is also on a timer, but she has a flair for the dramatic, and so she very slowly walks around her cubicle, and she very slowly destroys the Encom particle laser, and she very slowly walks up to Eve, and she very slowly raises her particle laser. Yeah, I was definitely right. This beat must be here to show us that even Mother Anasai can be redeemed by the same human experiences that led Ares to this point. With more experience, she can become more human. It's clearly setting up her redemption. Good job, movie. We are back on a firm footing. Mother Anasai's timer runs out and she de-reses, dropping her particle laser for later use. While she's re-resing at Dillinger Corp, AJ arrives at Encom and Eve tries to explain the grid to him.
I saw a complex world where packets of energy move as vehicles that trail by lines of light.
You all work here. Encom has its own grid, for fuck's sake. Why bring in another character who should know all of this already just to have Eve relate what we've already seen happen as though he doesn't know it all already? It's a waste of time, movie. He doesn't even need to be in the movie. He's done nothing. They reason that Anasai will keep coming back unless they can find some way to take the Dillinger grid offline. Fortunately, Mother Anasai dropped that Dillinger particle laser, and this allows us to technobabble our way to a solution.
The Dillingers run a wireless direct link protocol, so let's use what's left of the laser to ping the network and trace the path home. Once you have a connection, then you can nuke the whole Dillinger grid. And that's the only way to stop her. For good.
No, we're still on track for the good ending. This mutual misunderstanding between creator and creation will be solved by Ares with his newly enlightened perception. He'll just have to convince the humans not to nuke the grid, and convince Mother Anasai not to murder the humans. He'll have to bring them together. It all adds up, honest. There's no way we've just introduced the prospect of redemption for Mother Anasai, and so the prospect of redemption for all programs, only to go and genocide them. I mean, that would be absurd. Speaking of Mother Anus Eye, she re-reses at Dillinger Corp and she goes to print a recognizer. Scully Dillinger enters the room at this moment and informs Dylan Jr. that the board is going to get rid of him and put her back in charge, and her first order of business will be shutting down the Permanence project. She presses a button as she says this. The movie shows us her pressing the button. The movie thinks it's very important that we see her pressing the button. It doesn't achieve anything, but she most certainly did press it. And then Mother Anus Eye kills her.
I am fulfilling my directive. Capture Eve Kim, return her to the grid by any means necessary.
Now, I like the recognizer as much as the next guy, but I have to point out that this is clearly the worst vehicle to use for her present task. Look how slow it is! Ares only just made it to Encom in time driving a Honda Civic at high speed. Anus Eye has already flown there once on a much faster machine. And she only made it with a few minutes to spare. With the help of the editor, who seems to think that scene cuts are like wormholes and they grant access to fast travel, the recognizer very slowly floats into the city center. It takes out a chopper. It takes out a couple of jets. The pilot, though, he doesn't really sound like he's fussed. Eve decides that she needs to distract the recognizer to give AJ time to hack the Dillinger grid. She decides the best way to do this is to leave the building and waddle off down the road until she is inevitably captured by drones. The second plane hits the recognizer. The recognizer hits a skyscraper. Some rubble hits Eve and knocks her out. The recognizer crashes. Out of the recognizer comes the dart tank, and out of the dart tank steps Mother Anus Eye. And all through this sequence, I was thinking, you know, she could have just called an Uber. Mother Anus Eye does not have the particle laser this time, because I guess Dillinger Systems only made one. So now her plan is to drag Eve into the dart tank and drive the dart tank all the way back to Dillinger Systems to use the lasers there. All this in order to get Eve back on the grid. Might have been quicker to just take Eve back into Encom Tower and use the particle laser you dropped there a few minutes ago, but no, we're not doing that. She manages to get Eve into the tank and she starts to drive off. But Ares reappears at this moment. He changes color, so we know he's definitely good people now. He throws his disc at the tank, at the fucking tank, and it's super effective. The fucking tank is fucking wrecked in one shot. Eve's totally fine though, don't worry. I know you were pretty concerned there for a second. She's all good though. This was definitely a controlled explosion. Eve's gonna be okay. In the meantime, AJ successfully hacks the Dillinger Systems grid and he kind of nukes it. He's in about 3 scenes, and one of them is genocide. So we went to all the trouble of showing via Ares that programs can break free of their shackles through experience, feelings, and sensations. They can become more human. We went to the trouble of showing via Mother Anus Eye that this is not restricted to Ares. This can happen even to the most fanatically loyal and devoted program in the movie. And now the good guys, they've just killed them all. And this is what winning looks like. This means that in the obligatory and silly final fight scene, those 2 soldier programs Ares kills, yeah, he has actually killed them. They're dead. They ain't coming back. They are firmly deceased.
In pursuit of this life for yourself, did you once consider what that meant for the greater?
That is a really, really, really good question. Well done, Anus Eye. The answer is no. So to top it all off, Ares lops off her arm and then he sees she's about to time out. He makes a tokenistic I care gesture and holds her before she de-reses, but this is really just so he can make her death all about himself.
I followed my directive.
I know.
And now, what is yours?
I'm not sure. I guess we'll see.
And then she dies. Rip Mother Anus Eye. Back at Dillinger Corp, the police finally decide that the obviously Dillinger-coded terrorists probably came from Dillinger Corp, and so they go and take a look. But Dylan Jr. reverses the particle lasers and he escapes onto his grid. The one AJ nuked a few minutes ago. Well, fuck it, at least he'll have plenty of time to clean up all the corpses. That is basically it for the movie proper. Ares disappears before the Popo arrives, and he sends Eve a postcard from Mexico, telling her that the world isn't ready to meet him yet, which is also true of this movie. So, much like Legacy, oh look, it's Sam and Cora, I remember them. We've ended with the promise of world transformation to be addressed in a sequel that is probably never going to arrive. In the post-credit scene, Dylan Jr. wakes up on the grid. There's nobody to stick a data disk on him, and earlier in the movie that needed to happen to wake up the newly digitized human, but we've just forgotten about that rule because it's inconvenient. Another disk rises on a plinth. Dylan Jr. reaches for it. A disembodied voice speaks. Fucking wow, that's a reference. I can't wait to never find out what it means. And that is it. Tron fucked in the Ares, one of the movies of all time. That the movie opened to a lower box office draw than Morbius is obviously very funny. Unfortunately, it is not particularly memeable, and so the chances of tricking the studio into releasing it a second time are slim. One wonders how much longer Jared Leto's career can survive, given his projects have an unfortunate knack of de-rezzing in front of the audience. Ares' failure suggests fans are, occasionally, able to spot a soulless, pointless cash grab project and to reward it with scorn. But this is not really all that encouraging. As mentioned at the top, Tron Ares is not substantially worse than Lilo and Stitch, or How to Train Your Dragon, or Disney Plus's Peter Pan, or The Rise of Skywalker, or the Minecraft movie, or Captain America 4, or Jurassic World Rebirth, or Agatha All Along, or Ironheart. Judged purely on writing quality and internal consistency, it's a little bit better than Superman, yet most of these entries made more money, have a bigger audience, and find keener advocates online than Tron Ares ever will. I said Tron Ares was the perfect Disney movie, though not all the names mentioned there are Disney. It's just that Disney owns an awful lot of properties and dishes out the same treatment to pretty much all of them. These movies and shows all have, with vanishingly rare exceptions, absolutely nothing to say. Quite often, they are reprisals of older works that did have something to say, that have had all sense and meaning removed. The determining factor for performance has, then, very little to do with the quality of these modern versions. They simply parasitize their older host and will dine in accordance with how much life was left in the body. They have no reason to exist besides that a studio wants to make money. They're made by people who do not recognize the value in the thing off which they are leeching, and they emerge as meaningless husks. Unlike the older works, which earned their love because they had stuff to say, lessons to teach, values to uphold, stories to tell, these new movies are mere reference machines, divorced from all reality. They are third-order simulacra. What does Ares have to say about its subject matter? That old things are okay but feelings are better? That humanity matters for me but not for thee? That AI will be nice to us if we're nice to it except where it isn't? That progress is great unless you're evil? That experience makes a man and once he's made, everyone else can go to hell? That genocide is victory as long as the protagonist gets self-fulfillment and the enemy is wearing red? These are the messages the movie implies. They can be logically inferred and deduced from what the movie shows you, but I don't for a moment believe that that's what the writers intended to put across. I don't see any evidence that the writers intended to put anything across. Cool soundtrack, bro. Looks great in IMAX, buddy. Nice light show, friend. In short, Tron Ares is not an exceptionally bad movie. It's not even a remarkably bad movie. Tron Ares is just a typical movie, and that, in a nutshell, is the whole fucking problem. That's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. End of line.